Hello, welcome to Disconnected. Thanks for clicking. Please get involved in these discussions. It's always fun to know what other people think. The Stop Celebrating Stupidity, the Rise of Anti-Intellectualism. Actually, this video is way overdue because this is not new. This is probably about 20 years old now. But nah, not 20, maybe 10 to 15. It all stems from the rise of social media and echo chambers and fake news and all this kind of stuff. And it really started becoming a massive issue in the UK during Brexit, COVID in the States with the whole Trump administration and Trump's run up to the presidency. So I cannot put this better than this man. Bjorn, Andreas, Bull-Hansen has a channel. I've watched a few of his videos. I have to admit, Bjorn, I don't always agree with you, but I cannot agree more strongly with not just what you're saying here, but the reason I'm using your video here is because you phrase it so perfectly. So this is about the rise of anti-intellectualism. This is about I mean, he says celebrating stupidity, and he's right in the fact that people are so quick to take a meme or like a little soundbite that they see on Facebook as not just the truth, but also as some sort of indicator of knowledge and cleverness. I'm probably more left than anything. However, I like to see myself as somebody who always tries to keep an open mind. If a leftist thing is just stupid, then it's just stupid. And so maybe I'd be more accurate describing myself as just somebody who sees things or tries to see things for what they are, regardless if they're left or right. The left or right thing is more a divisional thing, I think, than actually a true thing. And people are always easily categorized both by others and by themselves. So if you don't, for example, believe in certain things, then you will say, well, I'm more right wing, or you think you're very woke, so you will try to explain to people that you are left, or you will be judged as being left. I think I have a huge amount of leftist views, but that doesn't mean I don't really think I'm that left. I think I'm more kind of like, take every little thing that happens on its own merit and make a decision around that. Anyway, I love the way that he phrases this. He's long in the tooth when it comes to YouTube and discussing these sort of things. And I would like to share with you, I would also like you to obviously check him out on YouTube. I think he does a half-decent job of talking about things. Let's get back. Oops. Right, have we still got it? Sorry, people. I'm being technically hindered here. There we go.
Celebration of stupidity. We see it in popular culture. We see it in society in general. Stupidity and a shallowness is being celebrated, and that's not a good thing. Let me just start off by reading a quote from the Daily Wire, a massive echo chamber, the way I see it, and this was Ben Shapiro, one of the talking heads there, who said this. He said the following: "You can spend years researching these topics. You can read all of the books, or you could just come and hang out with me here every week and know more on all of these topics than all your leftist friends." That's what Ben Shapiro said. Now, I'm not a leftist, but I must say that this is one of the most moronic, idiotic things I've heard in a very long time, actually. And it goes against everything I believe in. Now, I would say you should read the books, you should study, you should get into the topics. before you form an opinion. One thing is that it's of course dangerous to just listen in blind faith to someone on the internet, and that's why I always say that we should remain students our entire lives. We should read the books. We should absolutely read the books. It should be part of our of your lifestyle. Now, and when you study something, you usually find out that it's more complex.
So I'm gonna interject here, because obviously the best thing to do is to if you want to really know about something and brush something off as not true or whatever when it comes to a specifically intricate subject, the more you can read about it and the more you can learn about it, the better. But I am going to say something else which might, I don't think it really goes against what he's saying, but so if you, well, let's put it this way, pretty much everybody gets their information nowadays online, right? And therein lies the problem, because they might find one or two things, and according to their previous searches or their biases or their kind of friend groups or what they do and what they kind of post and reshare on social media, it kind of, the algorithm kind of guides them to, dare I say, echo chambers. This is probably the best way to put it. They are basically hanging in the same circles. So if you are looking for something about, COVID, but you are completely against lockdown or getting inoculated or whatever, then you will most likely only find all the information against it. So that doesn't mean that that is the truth. It means that you didn't do due diligence and actually looked at both sides of the stories. And there's two things. It's quite easy to see in most cases that if a piece of information that's presented to you, whether it be an article or any piece of information, who wrote it, when did they write it, and who are they? Who are the people that wrote it? I'll give you a good example. There was a classic case not long ago where there were these thousands of scientists who put their name on a document which was, I think it was not disproving, but being against the fact that human activity on this planet is causing climate change. But when you really dissect it, you realize that pretty much every single scientist that, let's put it this way, all the people that signed it had degrees of some shape or form, and they were all kind of well-educated people. However, none of them were climate scientists, not one of them. So it was presented as look at all these, big, smart, experienced, well-educated people who are signing this document saying, well, we agree that, I think it was, and I might be wrong, I think it was about climate change. But actually, when you look at it, you go, well, this guy does psychology, this guy does this guy does that. None of them actually are climate scientists or scientists who go out, digging up ice and checking oxygen and carbon levels, and none of them do that. So my point is very simple. It is not that difficult to, even on a more kind of superficial level, to really dig out more truth than the one that you just saw. Or more importantly, like if you like Ben Shapiro and you only listen to Ben Shapiro, you're going to become a Ben Shapiro. If you listen to Jordan Peterson all the time, you're going to become a Jordan Peterson. But there are other people too who also are well educated and bring out content. And it is vitally important that you then, at the very least, if you don't have the time or could be bothered to really delve into a certain subject, at the very least, look at all the different sides of the stories and then try to understand who wrote this article, what might be their bias, what is their own, the writer of the article, or the newspaper, or the publisher that brings this stuff out? Do they have any sort of affiliation with somebody, right? Are they maybe part of a lobby group? Are they maybe part of a corporation group? Do they have a political agenda? It's not that difficult to just be a little bit more kind of inquisitive about a subject before you believe one or two things that have been said about it.
Complex than you thought, What we're talking about here is the rise of anti-intellectualism. It's a complicated word, I guess, but it's been going on for a long time. I'm going to read another quote for you. This is Isaac Asimov.
Anybody who doesn't know Isaac Asimov, he was an author of sci-fi books. Really good books. I've actually read quite a few of Isaac Asimov's books when I was a teenager.
Who said that, and this quote is a little bit longer. He said, "I believe that every human..."
In fact, apologies, but I think Isaac Asimov was also the person who came up with the 3 laws for robots. The famous 3 laws that also come out in the iRobot movie. In fact, he wrote iRobot, the book, if I'm not mistaken.
Being with a physically normal brain can learn a great deal and be surprisingly intellectual. I believe that what we badly need is social approval of learning and social rewards for learning. We can all be members of the intellectual elite. It was written in Newsweek, 21st of January 1980. So a few years ago. Now, anti-intellectualism is the reason why we see this celebration of stupidity. And anti-intellectualism is a distrust and a contempt for people who, has expertise and spend time studying and who might actually be called experts in their field. It is the opposition to intellectuals, higher education, and scientific thinking and scientific method.
So I'm going to stop it there. I will really, if Bjorn ever sees this video, thanks. I think you said it better than anybody else, and therefore that is one of the reasons why I use your piece. There's another video that I'm going to be linking down below, and it is really interesting. It is kind of on the same subject, but it's a very long video, and it's by Sabine Hossenfelder. She does all the science and star stuff and, quantum physics and stuff like that. And she did an absolutely spot-on interview on how during COVID science died. And her argument was not that what she was saying was basically in a nutshell, but I'll link it below. Watch the whole video. It really is worth it. And what she means by COVID is where science went to die was not because the science wasn't good or anything like that. The argument she was making was that all the things that we did, the politicians said that the science made us do it. And her argument was that the science is solid. The science just gives you data. It is the politicians that then have to decide what to do with that information. So the science doesn't dictate the actions. The science didn't dictate lockdown or wearing masks or anything. The science just gives you the information. It is then for the politicians and the people to decide what they want to do with that information. If they feel that it is more important to lock down because we don't want to lose lives, but therefore we might lose business, that is a political decision. That's a decision that's made on the basis of the data. The data didn't say, okay, we now need to lock down. The data didn't say, okay, we now need to wear masks or we need to get inoculated. I'm using inoculated because the other word as you know, on YouTube gets a little bit flagged. So you know what I mean by inoculated. The data doesn't say that's what we should do. The data says this is what's happening, and this is what's probably going to happen, and this is probably what's going to be the consequences of X, Y, and Z. So now it's up to you, Mr. Politician, to decide what you want to do. What's more important? Do you want to lock down and sacrifice your economy? Do you want to rather keep your economy up and running and make sure people can go to work and do all these things, but then you're going to sacrifice lives, etc.? It is not, the science doesn't tell you what you need to do. The science gives you information, and then we as people, or unfortunately our fucking dumbass politicians, then have to make sense of it and do what they need to do. Unfortunately, and I'm going to say this, in the UK at least, the politicians that were running the country at the time definitely used that opportunity, like most rich people do, to enrich themselves and their friends, as we know with the whole PPE scandals and all that sort of stuff. Man, that's going to be a long video one day. Anyway, thanks, Bjorn. You said it perfectly. Thanks for listening, guys.